Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Camerascore, where we discuss everything media. Today we're talking about Five Nights at Freddy's 2. Because, the first one didn't deserve a sequel, but we got one anyway, so here we are. Now, how does it go? Is it great? Is it above expectations? Is it what the first film should have been? Let's find out. Let's start with the positives.
I will show you the way.
Oh no.
Okay, so positives. There are a decent amount. This is way better than the first one, hands down. I don't care what anyone says, I don't care about the popularity. That first one was not it from any standpoint. It was a lesson in terrible parenting, terrible siblings, and just overall irresponsibility, sleeping at the job. It was just bad. That being said, this film improves in so many ways. First, the gore factor. I know it's not rated R, but there are kills, and the kills are plentiful, and the kills are still displayed in a way that is very, very satisfying. You're seeing body parts, bits and pieces, even some blood. I know, right? Shocking. A horror movie showing blood? Who would have thought? But with that comes a lot of tension as well. I feel like they build up a lot of these moments where it's not just jump scares, but you're hearing noises, you're hearing a little balloon boy laugh. You're seeing these creatures fall into the water and then slowly come towards you, or you go in a room and you expect the animatronic to be there, but they're absent. It is really, really well done, and I like it a lot. Because unlike the first film, this one really delves deep into the horror aspect of what Five Nights at Freddy's is supposed to be. If you played the games, you know you have this limited power supply and these creatures are coming to hunt you, and you can't just keep the doors closed. You got to have them open sometimes. You got to check your cameras. I even like another positive how they pay homage to the second game where you have to use Freddy's mask to hide. Really, really cool little Easter egg. I'm sure there are many, many more. I'm not the biggest Five Nights at Freddy's fan. I'm not the ultra fan that some people are, but I really admire and give them credit for how they incorporated those aspects from the game in this. I also like the characters a lot more in this. The way they act makes a lot more sense. Although the older brother is still worst surrogate parent of the year ever. He never knows where his little sister is, which is insane to me. But that's besides the point. I feel like the way they carried out this story made more sense as to why these events were happening and the little girls bond with these kids trapped in the animatronics. It's even funny how they do reference how they can't stay there anymore and they have to go to heaven. It's very funny. Another really cool aspect is the visuals of all the animatronics. They look very visceral, very scary. The way they slow move, although it's very Michael Myers like in terms of them moving slow but somehow appearing across town all the time. It's one of those things you just let slide. And the fact that they move silently, but then when they want you to hear them, they're ultra loud and heavy, is what it is. But that was a really cool aspect because if the visuals were off, it would just look goofy and way too much actually like Chuck E. Cheese animatronics, which it does not. Another cool thing is I feel like the ending, even though you already know they're making more, that's not a spoiler. But the way they ended this one does set up the next ones in a still satisfying way. That's not just like, hey, we never caught so and so. Find out next time. They do it in a way that is still very satisfying and leaves you feeling like, okay, maybe I do want more. That being said, the changes they've made to the story, I believe it depends if you're a true fan or not. Because for me, I like the games, I like the lore, but I was never ultra into it in a way that I remember it now. There was a time when I was into it, but it's not ingrained in my memory. So the changes they've made are good. But if you're a super fan, and I've talked to some super fans, you might be a little mad at some of the changes they've made. And that leads us directly into the negatives.
Everyone called it an accident, but it wasn't until years later when those 5 children went missing that I knew she was murdered by him.
Now, a lot of the negatives are a little nitpicky. I feel like this was a good film for the most part. There was a decent amount of horror. The gore that's there, even though kind of out of sight, out of mind, is still decent. I believe they could have gone a little bit further, but that might have taken away their non R rating because they did want kids to see this. And there was a lot for adults in this kids movie, quote unquote. But I said I liked the characters, but some of them, their moments are kind of diminished in a way that I feel like doesn't make a lot of sense. Now, I understand it's a movie, you have to play it up for drama, but the school teacher, for example, or the main character's love interest slash savior in this, it, her role is kind of, it's done in a way that makes you want to hate her overly. She lies several times, and then they play it up like you're supposed to forgive her. Maybe I love that the main character didn't forgive her, by the way, because I wouldn't either. She's just a straight up liar several times. But I feel like they could have given her more of a different angle, maybe give her a little bit of redemption within these lies to make you feel sorry for her in the movie's ending. Another thing is some of the changes they've made, and like I said, I'm not a super fan, but even the origin of the marionette, I feel like they kind of changed a little bit too much. I feel like they took it to a level that made sense kind of for this story, but kind of diminishes what her original character was and the reasons that she was quote unquote ultimately killing people and trapping them and stealing their bodies. I feel like this one makes her more to be a bitter little girl as opposed to the origin that happened to her in the game franchise in the background, I guess. Now, a lot of these characters do interact well. I'm not too mad that they brought back and reference to the Golden Bear and my goat Matthew Lillard. Just an amazing actor through and through. It's cool to have seen him in this one, but maybe he's better served in the next film if that's what the next film will be about, if it follows what the games did. But his parts were really good, and I feel like they either should have had him more in it or just excluded him entirely. I think his role was really, really nice, but I think it gives you a teaser to his greatness, but then diminishes the other people that are actually on this film. Not to take away too much though, because some of it is just a little fan service. You have another Corey Kenshin cameo. That's really nice. But I feel like some of what they changed and a little bit of the story kind of doesn't flow well, depending on how much you know from before compared to this one. It's really one of those perspective things, like I said, where if it's just I'm watching this because I like the concept and the first one was okay and I like where they're going, then you're really, really going to enjoy this. But you're a true fan of the series and you're going to pick up these Easter eggs and these homages to the game, then you really might hate some of the changes that they've made. Another drawback with the story comes some of these moments that I just feel like are so nonsensical. Just the little girl just riding around Stranger Things style through the town, unfettered with no one looking after her, and just going to these old abandoned locations and everything is fine. It's just crazy. And then on top of that, the distance they travel is almost flash time speed at times, and then other times it's just well, it takes forever to get there. Then how did this little girl on a bike get there first? It's kind of all over the place in terms of sequential events and how long it takes for people to get places and to solve certain issues. It leads to a lot of continuity issues throughout. And by that, I just mean what was the character doing before? What are they doing now? And how did they get to those points in between? That matters a lot if you want to have a cohesive film. And I feel like some of those, even though I do give a lot of leeway for those because a lot of films it's daytime, then it's nighttime in 5 seconds, but I feel like this was a little bit too excessive. You couple that with some of the changes they've made to the characters and how they kind of diminish some of their roles and just paint them to be a villain or a good guy in an odd way is it takes away a little bit from the film. But for the most part, really solid entry. And now I'm actually excited, unlike the last one, to see what they do next. So I will stay tuned for that. But I'm just here for the camera score. And for this film, I give it a solid 7 to 8 out of 10. I think they did a lot of great things here and they've built a solid foundation, unlike whatever that toothpick and gum and chapstick and duct tape they used on the last film. That being said, let me know if I'm wrong. Maybe it's better than I think. Maybe it's much, much worse. Maybe you're a super fan who really, really loves this. Let me know in the comments. Like and subscribe to see what I'm posting next.